progress.
Okay, we're live. We're live. Hi, good morning, everyone.
Okay. Hello, hi, morning, everyone.
Yep. Thanks for joining us for the SOW. Every Tuesday, 10:30 a.m. So SOW means start of the week. This is something that we like to give people out there to have like updates on financial news of what are the latest things trending relating to finance.
Yes, that's right. And the previous week, right, someone said that we are not synchronized in our attire. So today, it's a matching fit, correct?
Yeah.
Slightly touch of grey.
Okay, touch of gray. Color will be closer as well.
Yes,
So,
yeah. So if you have any feedback for us, right, feel free to key in below. And then if you have any, again, if you have any comment, feel free to key in below as well. And then today we have a really interesting topic, that we want to talk about. Again, like what Zhong Jie has mentioned earlier, right? Our objective is really to talk about the latest financial news, and tips so that we can help you value add, to your financial plans. All right, great. So, why don't we just wait a while first, before we start?
Yeah.
So, you want to share about what are some of the setup here that we have got here?
Right now we actually have two settings. We are setting up for YouTube Live. I'm doing on my Insta Live. as
YouTube
well.
Live is this one. YouTube Live is this camera here. Okay, so this is YouTube Live. Hello. Hi, those on YouTube. Okay, we got to be careful because so that we don't touch the table.
Yes.
Okay, then next.
Then it'll be also on my Zoom. I'm using Zoom as well. So
Okay, so you're using Zoom. This is here, correct? And
Yes.
Zoom is connected to.
the Zoom is connected to Facebook. Yeah,
To
it's
your
my
Facebook
my
Live.
own Facebook.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
my own
you
Facebook.
want to share with our listener what
Yes.
is your Facebook live?
Actually,
what
on my
is your account?
Facebook, when you type on Facebook, you can just type my full name, KHEWZONGJIE. There'll only be this person in Facebook, and you'll be me. So you'll be easily be able to find it out. Yeah.
Yes, if not, you can call him Ah Zhong. Okay, I call him Ah Zhong also most of the time. Okay, so this is Facebook Live.
Yes,
right?
Facebook Live.
And then we have got one more camera on top, and that is
That's my Instagram, Insta
Okay,
Live. So
Insta
that one
Live.
is you can find me as Zhong Jie, aka Ah Zhong. So that one will be on my Insta.
okay. So that one is Insta. Hello,
Yeah.
Ah Zhong's fan. Hello, morning. Okay.
Morning, everyone.
Okay, so we are not selling anything. Again, we're not trying to live and sell you something, but we want to do live and then we want to update you some of the latest financial news, something that's interesting that we can share. And also feel free to comment below whichever platforms you are at. Correct?
Yes,
And there are people who have commented about our attire. Today we synchronized attire. Then people say Ah Zhong is very serious. Okay, so if you find him too serious, right, please comment below as well. If he's too serious, type in below, give him a nudge so that he becomes a little bit more loosened up today.
yes. And thanks for the feedback. Yep.
Thanks,
Okay.
Gaius. Yes, we
Yes,
are
hello.
working good, forever good.
Yeah. Thanks, yes. Yes, thanks everyone for joining us. And yes, we are at start of the week, Tuesday, 10:30 a.m. every Tuesday. Without a miss, usually, let's say, unless it's a public holiday,
Yes.
or there's certain things that's planned ahead. Yes. And right now, because recently, within the month of August, actually, as a parent myself, I'm very attracted by this forum and also this article that is talking about parents in terms of mentioning about parents have obligations to ensure our kids have a comfortable life. For this forum, actually, this article, when they actually refer from another article that they did in terms of a survey by one of the insurance companies in Singapore, that actually parents are spending much more on kids instead of their own future retirement planning. So this is something that I'm wondering.
So this is one topic that we want to talk about this morning.
Correct.
All right.
Yes.
So so we ask the audience first. So if you have any feedback, any comment, right? So our question to you is: do parents have an obligation to ensure that their kids have a comfortable life? What do you think? Yeah.
Right.
So maybe I ask you first. What do you think?
I think coming from where my upbringing from last time.
Yeah.
So I will feel that it's not comfortable life. I think in terms of have a I think decent, alright life, you'll be good enough. But I think it's very different because nowadays I think as the environment changed a lot, nowadays more parents are trying to bring their children. For example, staycation is very common. Staycation is nowadays is more common for parents to bring their kids, be it in local or when they go. Usually it's local now that they cannot travel. So this is something I think more parents are spending much more on kids. that's one of the things, yeah, in terms of like staycation.
Yeah.
Things, yeah.
As for me, right, I don't know whether you agree, but I agree to that statement. Okay, I think because because it is our plan, right, our choice, right, to have our children, and therefore I think we have an obligation to make sure that I wouldn't say a comfortable life, but I think the word comfortable really depends on how you see it, right?
Yes.
Yeah, but why don't I add in another thing? Comfortable life, but at your means, at your
Yes,
means.
correct, correct,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, that is my take about it. If you are earning, like 10, 20,000 a month, of course you can spend a little bit more. Okay, but again, as long as it's within your means. Of course, on the other flip side, if you're not earning that much, I think as long as you have given the basic requirements, for the kids to be comfortable, to have a proper education. To me, I think that is really, really enough, right?
Yeah, being a parent on my own, I also feel that now that in Chinese, for example, there's this saying like 养儿方知父母心. So once I'm becoming a parent,
Okay,
I'll be-
we just must slow down a bit
Okay.
because too fast. The YouTube subtitle also cannot follow.
okay, yes, okay, I'll repeat again. So 养儿方知父母心.
养儿方知父母心. Okay.
It does. What it means in English, it means that now that I'm actually upbringing my own children, then I'll actually understand how a parent, my own parents is how they feel in the past. So putting myself in the shoes of a parent, and definitely, I think as a parent, we definitely strive to give the best to our children. But I also want to emphasize that giving the best to our children also have to see like within our own needs, which James just now has highlighted is very important. And I also feel that because the article that the survey did, very interestingly, they have this statistics that parents are spending 2.5 times more on their children rather than on their own future. So this is quite astonishing, at least to myself. But after which I go and look through all my expenses, actually I fall into that category. So yeah, I also spend more on my children.
Okay, so again, if you have any comment, right, feel free to comment below. What are your thoughts? Do we parents have an obligation, to provide a comfortable life for our children? Right. So I think we kind of understand that, but then let's talk about it from a financial perspective. So maybe let me just ask Tung Jie this question. What do you think? How much is enough? Should you plan for retirement first or plan for? Because I think this is always the biggest problem, right? Do you plan for your retirement first or plan for your children's education first? What are your thoughts?
Well, this one really, to me, I feel that it's best to do both together at the same time. But then
If you
again,
have the money, lah.
yes.
Yeah.
However, I think one thing that I have to say that I fall into that category that I felt that I didn't really plan enough before I became a parent. So those who are single out there before you're a parent, do set up something more for yourself so that once things that is already in place, the plans are there, you actually fulfill and continue. So I think this would be something that is much better because when you become a parent, there'll be a lot of other expenses and things that you don't know, and definitely you try to give the best and like for example send for certain classes, and in terms of classes nowadays as young as I think from 1.5 or 2 years, so you can see a lot of enrichment classes, a lot of other classes out there, and the classes are not cheap. So it really depends on how useful are the classes as well. And also, I also want to put it again, depending on the means. So if you definitely can afford it, and yeah, that would be great. But then again, don't be happy because of like competition. That everyone's sending, I also have to send. That may not be that good in terms of financially. Yeah, it may not sound financially sound like.
Yeah, I think that's a comment that you
Yep.
I think some of them mentioned that retirement first.
Yeah.
I totally agree. It's exactly this what this quote has mentioned. Celebrate milestones as you prepare for the road ahead. All right. So as you celebrate the milestone of having a newborn, right? I take the story. Like when you are in the aircraft, right? Emergency, right? The air stewardess will tell you, right? Put on your mask first, then you settle your key.
Oh yes,
Yeah,
that's right.
I'm going to take the story. I think what is important is make sure that you have made plans for your own self first. Okay, that means you must make sure that you are adequately covered. You have planned for retirement first before you then take care of your child. I think that is something that's important. I can also relate this really good example. You know, like when I talk to my parents, right, you will notice that you know, in the past, right, they will want to set aside assets for us, you know. But when it comes to our generation, right, I would, you know, as long as we are not giving them any burdens, I think that is important. Yeah. So don't forget, if you never have your own retirement planning, you never do your own protection planning, anything that happens to you, right, it's gonna be a big burden to them. So if you ask me, I think you should take care of your own self first, then you look after your children's needs. You know, I think that's important. But make sure that you provide the basic adequate needs for them, like basic education, basic accommodations, and all this. I think those are something that's important.
So
Yeah.
yes, because as a parent, our responsibility definitely is we have to like upbringing them and give them the appropriate environment and also appropriate settings as well. So that's definitely our responsibility. And in terms of like the whether is it comfortable life, it will be subjective to each family, like which Gias also mentioned, which yes, definitely.
Yeah.
So, yep.
Yeah, so Zhongyan, maybe I ask you, you know, have you calculated how much do you usually spend for, I don't know, like for your children, you know?
Not exactly to the dollars and cents, but in terms of percentages, every month actually is it really I can in terms of percentages, I spend really like for example on myself is like around 10%, on my kids, the percentages go up to 30 to almost 40%, which is almost 3 to 4 times of my own spending. I spend on them more, which similarly to the article, I'm actually in the category who spend more on children also, rather than on myself.
Yes, yeah, thanks, Brian. Take care of our own finances and planning first, and then plan for the kids and parents. Yeah, I think just to give young parents a guide. I can't remember because my son is now in primary 5. So by then I remember during preschool time, right? That means kindergarten period, right? I think spend about 600 plus to about $700 on the kindergarten education. That's a private school.
That's a school fees.
Yes, that's a school fees. And then he did two classes. One is swimming. I can't remember, but I think swimming is probably about 100 plus to about $200. I really can't remember that. But if you know the price, you can just type it down in the comment, you know. I mean, just for reference. I also sent it for taekwondo class. That one I remember is about $300. Yeah, so on and off for my son, you know, education plus enrichment is probably about $1,000. Of course, it is better now because primary school, the school fees is heavily subsidized.
Yes.
So he did take swimming, but he still take 2 tuitions. So one tuition is about 270 each per month, roughly. And then taekwondo is still ongoing, 300. So it's again close to about 900. Yeah,
Almost around the same.
almost around the same.
Yeah.
Almost around the same. Yeah, correct.
Well, then given the figure, I have 2 ways. So I think I have to prepare myself even more so that my younger one is still very young, 15 months, so I think it's okay. Elder one currently do send him for certain classes for a while, then after that he stopped. So that right now, because at my elder one, although he's elder, but he's around like 3.5.
Yeah.
I think this is the stage that in terms of like sending them to whichever classes, it's important. I also want to give him to explore the chance. So to explore like a few terms of certain different classes to see which are the areas that he actually enjoys more, then we can focus on it more rather than just sending to classes that we think is good for him, but maybe he don't enjoy it. I think it's important that I won't want my kid to don't enjoy the whole thing, have to go through and like forcing to go. That's not a very enjoyable time as well.
Yeah, and Zhongjian, earlier on you mentioned about these staycations, and family holidays and all this. You know what? I mean, as a new parent, what are your thoughts? You know, because I also like sometimes I also had that stigma. You know, like I've got new colleagues who are you know, like during our time, right? I'm 40. During our time, right? The furthest trip that I've been to is probably Thailand. You know, Bangkok. You know, and we keep going there. You know, and because that is the most affordable trip. But if you look at you know, like I've got new colleagues, really young, you know, and then when they go on a holiday trip, right, it is as far as Taiwan, you know, or they can go Europe, you know, and etc. You know, what are your thoughts, you know, between balancing holiday lifestyles and giving your children that experience, like what young parents always mention about?
First and foremost, I think the reality and the hard truth for people to know that if you are bringing a very young baby, very very young baby, the logistics is quite a lot, and is the experiences to take through the flight and everything. It may not be that simple and easy. However, the given the fact that I think a lot of parents, only when I became a parent with young children, I know the air tickets is actually really very cheap for children under 2. Under 2, they only pay a seat fee of like I think less than $100.
Okay.
Yeah, because they don't really actually have a seat, so they'll be sitting with the mom with another seat belt. So technically speaking, it's okay, but I think in terms of logistics, a lot of things that of course. Then again, I think it also depending on when you go overseas, like vacation, like all this. What is the objective of it? Is for everybody to bond together and relax, or more towards, because I think for parents actually it's quite tiring. That's one. Second, when you go overseas, honestly, I would feel for children, baby, very young age, I don't think they can remember much, right? Experience much, right? So no matter how they experience it, I think it's more of the parents' experience rather than the baby or the children. Yeah.
I'm looking at it from a finances point of view. I just feel that I think it is nice to go on a vacation, nice to go on a nice holiday, but as long as you have budgeted that earlier part of the year, or you have made plans for it, I think it's totally fine. Like an example, because everybody goes to a certain place doesn't mean that you also need to go to a certain place. I think spend within your means. I think that is ultimately important, because like what I mentioned earlier, right? What your action is going to affect your children's in future. So if you never make enough plans for yourself, right? One day if you're not feeling well, someone got to pay the bill. If you can't, and if you are not properly covered for it, I think your children eventually is going to pay for that also. So I think going on an expensive holiday, I think it's really, to me, it's really to strike a balance between something that I learned from my daughter over the weekend. Something that you need to strike a balance between your needs and your wants. Is it a needs or wants?
Right, that's correct. And I think I also feel that it's important that, as just now, what James has mentioned, it's important to plan things like events that we do together. So in terms of like plan things to do together or bonding, it
may not necessarily be expensive, right?
It can be like staycation, or example like
I got one place, go to River Safari, because of what's that? Kai Kai.
Jia and Kai Kai. Yeah, recently they have a new baby panda. This is the latest news as well. It's trending Singapore topic.
Sing. CK just say, it's Sing, correct. Le. So, I don't know who is Le. I don't know whether it's Sing or Le. New names. Okay. So I don't know whether is it Sing Le or anything. But regardless of where it is, but I think those is correct. If it's for bonding, right? I think if you can go for expensive vacation, why not? I mean, a trip to the zoo is quite fine also. I mean, there's a lot of things to explore in Singapore. During the 1.5 year lockdown, really hasn't explored the whole of Singapore yet.
Correct. So I'll be doing a little bit of shout out for Singaporeans out there who still haven't used the vouchers that government has given you, the Rediscover voucher. You can go to zoo. And they have discount, you can use it to go to zoo.
Okay, now we become the STV advisor.
Yes, right.
Okay, and then the last two questions I want to ask is like, I think a lot of people may not understand how to really plan for retirement. How much of their, like if I bring in $5,000 every month, what is the reasonable amount people should set aside for insurance and for planning? What are your advice?
Okay, in terms of insurance, first and foremost, to protect the income, I personally feel that it's best that you utilize probably around 10 to 15, not more than 15% of your income to pay premium to protect your actual income. So that actually will makes more sense. And in terms of protecting the income, it doesn't mean just protect your 1 month of income. So it's supposed to protect at least around 5 to 10 years of your annual income, so that this will be more sufficient, because usually expenses are way lower than your income. So this is something that in consideration as a guideline.
Yes, I think the best is really to seek a professional advice.
Yes.
If you have, if you don't, you know who to approach. But I think as a rough gauge, right? I mean, for myself, 30%. Okay, 10% goes to God, but the remaining 30%, right, really goes into protections and my own personal savings. Let's use this as a guide first. Then you decide whether what type of instrument really to go to. If not, I think if you have just started out, if you're looking at this first time, if you just started out, not a young parents yet, I think 30% of your income should really goes to planning or savings for a longer term. And then if you are parents, right, I think that amount may be struggling for you. Then maybe you can just adjust that accordingly. Yeah, and then and let me just ask Zhong Jie one last question, okay, before we kind of end today's live, okay. Other than financial planning, other than protection planning, any other thing that we should look into, especially when we are young parents, anything to take note of?
I think it's important for young parents to have like wills and lasting power of attorney (LPA) done up as well. So this is one of the very important thing that, for example, for lasting power of attorney (LPA), if we are unable to like make any mental decision, we have to decide before that who will be the one to take care of us in terms of like our health, well-being, and also who to actually be able to touch our resources. I think this is very important because lasting power of attorney for the past few years as an government has always been encouraging people to make this before anything happens. So yes, in previous series that I've shared before that, if, I do have a client that doesn't his dad doesn't have an LPA set up. However, when he actually had a stroke, then a lot of things are in a way in a mess, so that like the stocks that he has and the funds inside his bank account, everything cannot be touched. So a lot of things has been not so pleasant as well. So this is one when we are still around, and if we cannot make mental decision of it, so I think it's very important to have LPA set up.
All right, thank you, thanks, Zhong Jie. And lastly, I just want to sum up as you celebrate your milestones, right? Remember, that I don't know. I think our summary is that we do have an obligation to provide for our children, okay? But then at the same time, just make plannings for ourselves first before plannings for them, and then other than planning for retirement, protection planning, right? I think what Zhong Jie has mentioned is totally true. Also look into setting up your will and your lasting power of attorney and all other things at one go. Yeah, because it's never too early to make planning for all this. And we also need to constantly adjust our plan according to the situation as well as the environmental change.
Yes.
All right, great. And then okay, you want to tell them more when are we when are we doing this?
Okay, yes. For listeners out there who probably may miss our first part, later on there's still replay, you can watch it again. Okay, we'll be having this every Tuesday, 10:30 a.m. start of the week. So start of the week is something that we'll be doing in terms of giving updates of like the latest news and latest things relating to finance. Yes. So this is something part of the things that we also want to value and also give back to people out there as well. Yep.
Yes, thanks everyone. Once
Thank you
again, we
very much,
are
everyone.
MVP, so join us every Tuesday, 10:30 for a coffee chit chat. All right, thanks everyone.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.